Alright, now we're going to start on the other side of the kitchen, and the first thing before I remove any of the cabinets, I'm going to have to remove this hood vent over the electric stove. And we've got ductwork that has to be disassembled before we can remove this cabinet, and then we also have electric going into a box in the vent. And if you take a look over here, this is what we're going to have to open up. This is the box right here. We're going to open this up and disconnect the wires, and there's probably going to be a wire nut, and we'll take a look, see what it looks like. Alright, this is the mess I found once I removed the box that surrounded all these electrical wires inside this vent. And this should be a BX connector, and we should have a nut here, and this is just, they just drilled a hole through the sheet metal. So these are the things you might find when you're taking apart your old appliances in a kitchen. So we're going to turn the electric off to the circuit. We're going to remove the wire nuts on these two wires, and we're going to pull it out without damaging the outer insulation on these wires. And then once we put the new one in, it'll actually have a box here where we'll use a BX connector, and it'll be a very solid, safe connection. Alright, I removed the old stove, and one trick to save you some money is we have a 40 amp dedicated line to this electric stove, and the new stove, almost all new stoves do not come with a cord. You have to buy this separate. So I'm going to dismantle this and unscrew the old cord, and I should be able to use this for the new stove, saving a lot of money. I removed the cover from the back of the stove, and you can see that this cord is only held in place by 3 screws. So I'm going to remove these 3 screws, and this should fit the new stove, saving me some money. Alright, I removed the cabinets over the sink, and now I'm going to work on the base deck. And so we'll put a little dish below both of the valves underneath the faucet. We'll turn off the valves, unscrew the supply lines, and then I will disconnect the trap underneath the sink, and that will allow us to pull the countertop off and then break down the old cabinet. On this sink trap that I'm removing, you can see they had a rubber repair trap held on by 2 hose clamps, and you can see why they put this on. This old metal wall tube is just completely rusted away, and you can just break it off in your hand. So that's why on a lot of these traps, when you use PVC, it'll last for decades and does a very good job, and it's also much cheaper than the metal P-traps. Disconnected the old dishwasher. I disconnected the hose and the water supply going to the shutoff valve, and the next thing, we have a flexible conduit going to a little electrical box inside the dishwasher itself, and all I have to do is unscrew these 2 wire nuts and then the nut that's holding the fitting onto the conduit, and that will allow us to pull the old dishwasher out of here. Off the old countertop, and it has the kitchen sink in here. And just to give you an idea of how we're going to attach the new counter and a new sink, you can see how the sink top is held in place by these small brackets. They fit under a lip, and as you tighten them down, it locks them into place. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like underneath a sink. And in the new sink, it actually comes with a little different style bracket. So each manufacturer is going to be a little different, but in essence, we're grabbing a sleeve and tighten it down with this clip. You can also see that underneath the faucet, our supply lines are attached to the faucet, and all of your kitchen faucets are going to be 1/2-inch iron pipe. And so your supply line is going to be 1/2-inch iron pipe where it connects to the sink, and then the other end is either going to be 3/8 compression or 1/2-inch compression. And the most common size is 3/8 compression. Alright, to remove all that old tile, I had to pull off the drywall, and what I did was I measured down exactly 4 feet, and I put a line, and then using my drywall saw, I cut a nice straight edge so that when I lay a 4x8 sheet of drywall, it's going to sit in there just perfectly. Now I've got a mark for all the outlets and the light switch, and we'll cut those holes again with the drywall saw, and we'll lay the piece of drywall in there. Alright, I floated the first piece of drywall in. It laid real nice. It's 4 feet from top to bottom, and then it's just shy of 8 feet long, so I cut it to lay into the middle of that stud, and then we'll cut our next two pieces of drywall and finish off this side of the kitchen. Alright, I'm cutting on the other side now a piece of drywall to fit around these electrical boxes. And one little tip when you're using your drywall saw, if you cut out your outline and you give it a bit of an angle inward on each line, you're going to create this little bevel effect, and what it'll allow to happen is when you put your drywall back over these boxes, it allows them to slip over them much easier. And if you're a little bit off, it's much easier to trim. So just by putting a little angle on it, makes your drywall much easier. Alright, I've got the drywall on both sides, and I put 3 coats of compound on all my tape. And one little tool that's excellent is a sanding sponge. It keeps a nice square shape, and it's very easy to sand. You can use it wet or dry. And one trick that is good for a large area like this is I'm going to turn off this light above me and leave the light on off to the side so that you get the light shining right against the side of the wall, and I'll be able to pick up any imperfections in my compounding. Another trick is if you have a drop light, turn the lights off and use a drop light at an angle right against the wall, and that's going to show you any areas that you need to sand. Alright, we've got the kitchen primed and we're going to start painting. Then tomorrow we will start setting all the new cabinets.